Hey guys, it's Nick, and today I'm going to talk about a topic that comes up in the hockey community quite a bit, and it's Jonathan Toews' contract and how to justify why he was making $10.5 million. I got this idea from an article I saw yesterday. I was planning to make the video after I saw this article because it's actually a smart idea on how they justified his contract. So mostly my video could be fairly similar to what was stated in this article. So I would like you guys to go over to the article and read it after seeing my video, because it probably is going to be very similar to what was stated in the article on what I'm going to state. And I don't want to feel like I'm stealing the credit of what was written already. Okay, well, let's get started on how to justify this. July 9, 2014, Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane signed a 8-year deal for $10.5 million. Same exact contract to each of them. At the time of signing the contract, the Blackhawks were in Game 7. At the time of signing this contract, they were close to winning a second straight Stanley Cup. They did not do so because of a fluke defensive play in overtime by Nick Leddy of Game 7, Western Conference Final, and led to the Hawks losing. If the Hawks were to win that game, they would have been back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, because the New York Rangers were not good enough to beat the Western Conference Final. A Western Conference team, whoever came out of it. So Toews' resume at the time had 2 Stanley Cups in 2010 and 2013, 2 Olympic gold medals in 2010 and 2014, a Conn Smythe Trophy for playoff MVP in 2010, and a Selke Trophy for best defensive forward in 2013. He's also won a World Junior title. So his trophy case at the time of signing this contract was pretty big. He was at that time a proven winner, and he still is a proven winner. And he's been captain of the Chicago Blackhawks for 10 years. He became captain of the team in the 2008-2009 season. I made a video on Jonathan Toews of 10 years. It was called 10 Years of Captain Serious, because I wanted to make the video an honor for Jonathan Toews. I did not even want to bring up the contract because I wanted to celebrate Toews being captain for 10 years, which is a rare achievement in the NHL. Well, Toews has been captain for 10 years. That's another key reason why he's making the $10.5 million. I know he's had a rough couple of years in a row now, but in the 2016-17 season, he had a back injury that took him out for about 25 games. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was 25 games. And in last season, he had an upper body injury that took him out for about 15 games, and that was at the end of the season. He's missed some time by injury in the last few years. His point production has fallen, But at the time of signing the contract, there was no show of a decline in Jonathan Toews. Toews is still able to get back to his former self. He's still not that old. He's able to come back this season and have a bounce back season, which is highly likely because most of the team is expecting a bounce back out of a captain like Jonathan Toews, who's been probably the best captain in the NHL. He's never been a 100-point player, which is a thing the article stated, which is a true statement. His best season statistically was the 2013 season, where he was a point per game player. But that was a shortened season because of the NHL lockout that started the season, and that was the season the Blackhawks went on a tear to start it up. But his career season and high points was the 2010-2011 season. He had 76 points, which is his career high. He's averaged in his career is 65 points. In the last 2 seasons, he's been in the 50-point range. He's had a rough couple of seasons now, but he doesn't have to get his balls busted every time about him being paid $10.5 million when he, at the time of signing the contract, it was very justified of him because he's had so many accomplishments in the NHL and in the world circuit of hockey. Toews has been basically bashed the entire time of having this contract for the past 3 seasons, I will say now, when he's, with having signed this contract, he has won the 2015 Stanley Cup, and he's also won the Mark Messier Award for Best Leader in the NHL in 2015. He still isn't going to be a 100% player. He's never has been. He's a true defensive forward, which people don't put that to record because he's not scoring forward, which a lot of people who are in the NHL gets paid some big money, or primarily true offensive forwards like Patrick Kane, like Connor McDavid, like Sidney Crosby, who still is paid less than Kane and Toews. So, but at the signing, people thought it was a good deal because they wanted to lock up Toews and Kane so they didn't go to free agency and lose them. Because look what happened this offseason with the New York Islanders. They lost their captain, they lost their face of their team, and John Tavares to free agency to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toews and Kane, if they went free agent, they were going to be the top free agents in the NHL that year for the 2015 free agent frenzy. The Hawks wanted to lock them up to get them to stay in Chicago. They are the face of the team, so they wanted to keep the faces of the team. in Chicago sports eras of greatness, this is how it has gone. Ernie Banks and Billy Williams for the Cubs' first main era of great players that never won a championship. It's unfortunate because there are legends to the team. Then it was Bobby Hall, Stan Mikita. They won the 1961 Stanley Cup. Then it was the Walter Payton era for the Chicago Bears in the 80s. Then the Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan era in the 90s. Then we came to the 2000s. It turned into the Kane and Toews era after they were drafted, and Toews being drafted 3rd overall in 2006 and Kane being drafted 1st overall in 2001, and they've won 3 Stanley Cups. Now the new era in Chicago sports is Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant of the Chicago Cubs. The reason why I'm saying this, they are, if you put a Mount Rushmore of Chicago sports legends, you can have Toews and Kane put on it. And I'm not meaning Kane as being overpaid, because he's well deserved of his contract. And at the time, Toews was well deserved of his contract as well. He's just not producing the numbers that people want to see him produce with the numbers, with the salary that he's gaining. But with for instance, Toews and Kane being on the same team together for basically their entire career in the NHL, and most likely going to retire together and go into the Hall of Fame together, it's a token of appreciation to the era that the Hawks created with these two great players. Toews never has been that top-notch NHL scorer, which people want to see because he's making $10.5 million. He's always been one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL. He's one of the best face-off percentage centermen in the NHL. And every time he gets flack about making $10.5 million, they aren't putting the full picture together and why he's making this money. If he went free agent in the 2015 offseason, he would probably be making more than $10.5 million. He took the discount with the Hawks. And it's worked out pretty well. I know the last few seasons the Hawks have not been up to their Stanley Cup contender selves, but that's more on the factor we have lost key players. And I'm not going to go into that, but it's going to be a harder time to win consistently. This last season was the worst season in the Blackhawks organization since the 2007-2008 season, when the Blackhawks missed the playoffs. The last time the Hawks missed the playoffs before this year. I can easily see Toews make a bounce back to his best defensive forward self, which is a clear sign of him. If he does it this year, it's going to be great to see Toews be back to his old self. In this off season, he has been working out a lot to try to regain his speed. And he's had a few highlight reel goals over time in his career. Most memorably was his rookie season, and it was against the Colorado Avalanche. He had the puck, he dangled himself from the blue line all the way up to their the Avs goalie. I can't remember who it was. I actually think it might be Craig Anderson at the time when it was the goal. He dangled himself through like 3 players on Colorado and made a absolute beauty of a goal. Then I can even throw in a couple other goals that he's had, but that was one of his career highlight reel goals that I wanted to mention because that was an amazing one. But seeing that the Hawks have had the rough salary cap go for in the last decade, I'm going to say, because we've had some of the worst salary cap luck in the past decade. And it's mainly because the first half of this contract started with a questionable decision of what at the first part of their career, we lost quite a bit of players after 2010 because of Dale Talon not handling the restricted free agents well. That's why the Blackhawks let Dale Talon go, and they hired Stan Bowman, who hasn't been that good at the salary cap game as well. But seen how the Hawks have these two faces of the team in Kane and Toews for over a decade now, it's well deserved of what they have accomplished, and Toews being the factor that he gets the more flack out of getting $10.5 million. He's getting paid for his accomplishments and his leadership in Chicago. So, I would like you guys to go over to the article that I put into the description down below, because I did bring up a few other things that the article did not state. And, if you want to continue this conversation down in the comments below, please leave a comment saying why you believe Toews' contract's justified. And then we can probably get a good conversation going on this. And if you haven't done so already, please leave a like and subscribe. But most of all, let's go Hawks.